Welcome to LOA Today. Walt Thiessen and life coach Tom Wells here. Today is Friday, June the 1st, 2018, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, your first daily dose of happy for the day. We made it to June already. I mean, Wendy and I were commenting on that, on how quickly the year's been flying by, that the year's almost halfway done. It's like, it blows us away. But June 1st, wow. I mean, didn't this year just begin? It's crazy how fast it goes.
It feels like a good ride, though.
It does, yes.
I mean, it's like, yeah, okay, time goes by, but does it really? I don't know. But it feels like a good ride, because I keep coming into the moment a lot.
Well, there it is.
But I do feel that passing of time, I don't know what to do with it, because it just is what it is. There's nothing I can do to change that.
Well, I think it's perceptive, right? I
mean, it is perceptive.
So as long as it's perceptive, that means, well, if I'm living in the now, and that's the only thing I really have to live in anyway, it's really all about stretching out my experience in the now and just, really, really enjoying it the most. Because if I enjoy it the most, I think actually that's what slows it down more than anything. Because I'm having a good time. I'm feeling good, It's when I'm feeling anxious and impatient, that's when everything gets, it moves faster, or, if I'm feeling stressed, or I'm feeling, anything that is out of control, that's when it all seems to speed up.
Or when we think we need to accomplish something in that period of time and we're putting pressure on ourselves, which is, like you say, that's the stress, right?
Right.
Put pressure on thinking that the time really, really matters, and then it does. But if we enjoy just the fact that, well, it's an eternal moment I live in, and perhaps I've been around for many, many lifetimes, and I'm going to be around for many, many more, or for at least for some other way I'm going to continue to exist in the unseen realm, and then what's the pressure?
True, yeah. It's almost like we need to regain what we had as kids, because as kids,
yes.
I mean, the rule of thumb is, well, when you're a kid, Christmas can't come fast enough, right? Well, same kind of thing, except that when you're a kid, just in general, everything just has long, extended periods of experience to it, even though it's the same time period as we experience as adults. So somehow we need to regain that perspective again, so that it does feel like we're really enjoying every moment to the fullest and just living it to the fullest at all times.
Yeah. I remember being on a walk the other day and thinking, well, the summer is now beginning, and thinking of all the past summers, because I've had every summer off for pretty much my whole life. I've never worked during the summer. So summer's always been this freedom time for me. And I think of it as like, it always goes by too fast, even though I have it off, Right. But as a kid, like you say, it was endless summer.
Yes.
I think the Beach Boys even had a song called.
They did, yeah, that's right, and well named too, because it did seem endless.
Man, did it ever! And it was so much fun, and But then when September would come, the school year seemed endless.
That wasn't so good. I didn't like that too much. I mean, I did okay in school, but I could have done away with that 180 day a year requirement very easily.
Yeah, right. It was a prison sentence to me.
It was. It was.
That's what it felt like. But
and
that's
then,
okay.
And then you got time off for snowstorms and such like that, and then they'd extend the school year to cover it. You're like, oh, well, wait, but that's not fair.
Yeah. That didn't happen to me because I grew up in Southern California. So.
Yeah, you don't get too many snowstorms there, do you? No.
Not too many. No. In fact, I don't think I ever saw one. It did. I remember when water would freeze overnight. It was a big deal.
Right. Yeah, we actually, when I was in college, my family had an exchange student who came from Southern California, and there's pictures of her that were taken when she had her first experience with snow. It just blew her away. She had never seen this stuff before.
Yeah, we used to go up in the mountains just to see it. But when I was a little kid, it snowed because I grew up first 6 years in Albuquerque, New Mexico, so I did see some snow there, but not much.
Yeah. Well, you want to see plenty of snow, you just go to where you are right now or to where I am right now. Colorado, New England, both of them are good places for snow. Just not in June.
Yeah.
Unless you go up into the top of the Rockies, but other than that. So we are talking about relationships today. And before the podcast, you told me that this particular topic was something that you give a lot of thought to, and I thought maybe you could kind of introduce it that way. Why is it that this particular approach to the topic of relationships is something that's really on the forefront of your mind? What makes this such a big one? Because it's a good one. I'm just kind of curious about it.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, there's a number of things, and I'll see whether or not I can recall all of them. One is that immediately is that I have clients who have this as a big issue
Oh.
concerning, they would really like to have more friends.
Mm-hmm.
And it really resonates with me because when I started getting into law of attraction, I started to notice, and even before then, when I was getting into things like shamanism and, I was going on vision quests and reading. Starting to read a lot of quantum physics, and I was changing my head so much with these concepts and ideas that are presented by studying shamanism and quantum physics and things like that, that I was moving away from the average Joe mentality of, if there is such a thing, of my friends,
Mm-hmm.
which was, a lot of my friends were much more focused on maybe, football, golf and tennis, and just kind of like what you might say, the average American lifestyle, if there is such a thing. And
Mm-hmm.
I know there really isn't, but that those more things that you would see in mainstream media,
Mm-hmm.
just reflected in the news and movies and things. And so I had a lot of friends who seemed to be pretty content with that average American lifestyle, and I was never one of those people, but I was now moving even further into the realm of what really interests me. And as I did that, and also following the need to have my life feel more fulfilling, and as I did, I found that more and more of my friends were not on the same wavelength I was on, and I felt less satisfied when I'd be in their company if the conversations never went to the subjects that I was finding interesting,
Yeah,
and
sure.
I was finding hard for me to turn the subjects in those directions because they were too unusual for most people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, what happened was I began to see that, like, for example, I have 40 family members that live in Denver here, and I have at least 40 friends who I've known at least 40 years. So there's all these 40 things. I don't know what
Yeah,
that's
I
about.
say there's a
I'll
bit
have
of a
to look
pattern
up the
going
number.
on.
To look up the number 40, but um, I was finding that I was really moving away from almost all those people in my consciousness, and therefore, when I would go to a family event or a friend event, because I see these friends a lot too, um, that it would just be less fulfilling for me because I could talk to people throughout the evening or whatever kind of party or whatever was going on, but I would seldom find anybody that was even remotely on my wavelength.
Mm.
So anyway, then I started to realize that, well, I really want kindred spirit friends. I want friends that really get me and I get them. And when we're together, we really can talk about just about anything and get off on it because we're venturing into this new paradigm of discussion of how the world is transforming and we're transforming in these incredibly wonderful, metaphysically cosmic ways that I want to talk about. Well, that wasn't happening. And so ever since then, I've been still sort of longing for more of those people in my life. I've also learned, though, that I can be with family and friends that I've known for many years, sometimes 40 years, and it'll be incredibly fulfilling depending on what I bring to the party. Like
Mm-hmm.
if I do segment intending on the way, I recently went to a party with a whole bunch of my friends. It was some kind of a birthday party for one of them that happens every year, and there was at least 30 people there that I knew all of them. I had known them for a really long time, and I had more fun, I think, at a gathering than I'd ever had in my life because I went there and set the intention on the way of all these great qualities I wanted to experience. Like I wanted to experience clarity and fun and playfulness and joy and laughter and deep conversations and frivolous, fun conversations. And
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to experience it all. And I walked into the room feeling really aligned with that and really sure that I was going to enjoy the company of every person that I spoke to. And that's what happened. It was like I couldn't even get to enough people that evening because I was having so much fun with everybody that I would end up spending time with. And it would turn into exactly what I've wanted, lots of laughter and lots of ease, and sometimes a heavier conversation where the person wouldn't even want to stay in the conversation with me because I don't think they wanted to get that deep.
Mm.
But it was all okay. The whole evening was okay.
Isn't that
And
interesting though? Because what you just described is you started with, I really want to find like-minded people, and then you transitioned to, I went to a gathering where I knew the people weren't like-minded to me, but I went with the intention of having a great time and feeling good, and I did, even though they weren't all like-minded to me.
yeah. And the bottom line for this whole discussion in my mind is that it comes down to, are you aligned with you?
Yeah.
And if you're aligned with you as your own best friend, you might say, as your own most interesting companion, and then you set the intention to what's the word, explode that, or kind of like just let that proliferate throughout your environment, and no matter who comes into your contact, you're going to do your best to have a blast with it, then you can. And it won't always go in that direction. You'll sometimes move away from somebody because the vibration just isn't clicking, but that doesn't have to be a big deal, because that's just the way it is. There's going to be some people that we're not going to vibrate with, but the ones that we do vibrate with are going to be a match to what we've achieved in our own soul, in our own heart. If I'm really feeling good and I'm aligned with my source self, then it's going to give these people permission, you might say, to bring their best alignment with their source self to the conversation or to the interaction, because everybody has this connection to source, that they're always, that source is always, the radar is always on to align them with who they really are. And if they're listening at all, then they're going to be feeling the vibration of aligning with their higher self. And I'm going to be feeling the vibration to align with my higher self. And in that realm, there's all kinds of room for beauty to occur, for good conversations and laughter and so many things to occur when we're both aligned.
It's true. And even more than that, as you were talking, I realized most people don't know about getting into alignment. I mean,
No.
It's just not part of the average conversation. It doesn't fit to that middle America, right?
You could say that, yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's that's in some ways it's a minus, but in other ways it's a plus, because it means that since they don't really understand fully the importance of being mindful of their own thoughts and their own feelings, and staying in that highly, what we call the high vibration place, the highly positive, highly good feeling place, where all the thoughts that are going through our mind are all thoughts that serve us and make us feel good and give us satisfaction and so forth. Well, since they don't know that, they're going to be influenced easily by whatever it is that those of us who do understand it focus on, just because we focus on it. So there's actually an advantage there, which is it's not really the way we'd normally think about it, but I think that's essentially what happened with you. I mean, you walked into a gathering of people you knew, but you were one of the few who walked in with a deliberate intent to maintain your balance, maintain your focus, your alignment, and so forth. And as a result, everybody else fell into alignment with you. Cool.
Well, that's exactly what it felt like it happened. It was because I was having experiences with people I've known a really long time that were beyond what I've ever experienced with that person, and with people who it seemed like I was kind of falling away from the relationship with them. Like it practically had seemingly in my mind disappeared. And these are people that maybe I used to see, 10 times a year for mountain biking or go to dinner at their house, who once I got divorced about 8 years ago, they sort of sided more with my wife and less with me. And it became like they started to invite her for dinner, but not me, and so I sort of lost all that relationship I had, and no more mountain biking and no more going to dinner at their house. And when I would see them, if I would see them at all, it was always kind of a bit of a cold shoulder. They were cordial, but there was no more of those great interactions we used to have. And at this party, I literally made contact with some of those different people as if nothing had ever changed. And in fact, it was even better than it used to be. And they were throwing me kisses when we left and stuff. And I'm thinking, it's just me. It's really just what I bring to the party. Literally.
Yeah, really.
Love that statement.
And boy,
And
that's powerful too. I mean, people,
yeah,
you just described how people who you knew, you were close to, basically they moved away from you, and you went into this party with this one particular focus, and they came back. Like, wow.
and I went away from them,
And you
I
moved away
really
from them,
thought.
yeah.
I really thought I'll never be close to that person again, and I don't want to be, because they're so different than me that, forget it. I don't. Those people are. They don't get me. They don't get all this great realizations I'm having about law of attraction and quantum physics and metaphysics, and
Right.
they're just in this world. They're into tennis and they're into football, and that's fine, and they like to do this or do that, but that's not me anymore. And it's really an elitist kind of position that alienates me from my own self. It's like, it's that making that choice. And I notice that now I'm in a primary relationship now. And with the woman I'm with, I see how I can do that to her so easily, is sort of just say, no, she just doesn't get me in this way, or she doesn't get me in that way, or she's not developed enough in this way or that way, like I am. And anytime I do that, I just create this rift, of course, between me and her. And then to do the opposite is so much nicer, so much more fun for me, when I just, as Abraham said, look for the positive qualities, look for what you appreciate, and see if you can focus only on that. To the exclusion of the things that you think are causing a rift between the two of you. And it's amazing, because they just come back again and again. Abraham comes back to saying, it's your relationship to you that's going on here. It's all it is. It's just your relationship to you, and then you're putting it on somebody else as if there's this separation. But
It's interesting.
There is such a thing as people growing away from us, right? Or we growing away.
Well, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
It does exist, but how much does it happen because we focus it that way? I mean, I was just thinking, as you were talking there, I was thinking about a phrase that I used, I think it was with Wendy, and we kind of talked about it a little bit yesterday, that we are always right. And this is particularly poignant for those like me, although I've pretty much left this behind, but nevertheless, I still have a little piece of it, and I had a big, big chunk of it when I was younger, of wanting to be right. I always wanted to be right, and I was going to go out of my way to prove that I was right.
Yeah, exactly.
There are a lot of people do that,
Yeah,
and it's really an interesting and a kind of an ironic thing, because when you're going out of your way to prove that you're right, it means deep down you don't think you are, which is a really, really strange thing, but it's true. And I find it now to be helpful to remind myself that we are always right. All of us are always right. We're always right because every single choice was the choice that we felt was right for us at that particular time. So therefore, we are always right. And so when we choose to say that the other person, really doesn't get me at all, we're right. And when we say that they're not, they're not the kind of person we want to hang around with, we're right. And when we say that we do want to hang around with them, we're right. And I mean, we're right all the time.
Yes.
Which is a little alarming when you begin to think about it, We're always right. In fact, Abraham has that very, very famous phrase within Abrahamic circles, within people, who are followers of Abraham, that says, let's see, how's it go? You'll never get it wrong, and
because you'll never get it done.
And you'll never get it done, right. And I said I like to reverse that. I actually turned it around. I said, I'm always right, and the road goes on forever.
Yeah.
And when I phrased it that way, I realized, oh my God, I really am. I'm always right. Tom's always right. Wendy's always right. People I don't like are always right. Everybody is always right. And that one just kind of caught my attention. It's been floating around in the back of my head since the conversation with Wendy yesterday on the afternoon podcast. My God, we are always right. And the consequences of that, boy, I mean, there are very definite things that follow from we are always right, among which are we are truly always responsible for everything that comes into our lives.
That's right.
It literally validates how the law of attraction is, not just how it works, how it is, what it really is. Everything that comes into our lives, we did it. We brought it because we're always right. Wow.
And and your vibration obviously is what you're saying. Also, it's because what you're vibrating with is what you get. What you
That's right.
focus on is what you get. But another reason this is such a relevant thing to me right now is that I've had this person in my life who's been my closest male friend for about last 9 years or so. He's pretty much my closest male friend other than my brother, and because he and I both were each other's companion during our divorces. First, he divorced, and I was hanging out with him a lot because he was going through a lot of intensity and a lot of loneliness and things. And I hadn't really known this guy that much before then, but now we were getting really close, and then I had my divorce, and so he started inviting me, to come over for dinner and all these things. Then he got remarried, and then I started hanging out with he and his wife a lot. And it's been this like dinner every 10 days or so for the last 8 years or so. Well, now we just had a falling out where it looks like we'll never, ever hang out with each other again. And, it's been shocking. And the reason is, though, because I felt we were slowly growing apart. His interests were going in one direction. Mine were going in the direction of all this law of attraction and everything. And during that time, I always wanted him to sort of understand and get me, and ask me questions about what I'm into and things like that. And I would try to explain how I saw life changing, the different way I was seeing it from the view of the law of attraction. And he was going in a different direction where he wasn't that interested in any of that. And he didn't even kind of really totally believe in it, but he did kind of, and he was opening to whatever degree he was. But it wasn't working for me, and the discussions we were having were feeling less and less satisfying to me. And either I really, really listened to him closely about what he was into and asked him questions, or there wasn't that much conversation. And anyway, to finally cause us to separate in kind of a weird way has been a real eye opener to me, because it really shows me, well, either this is the fact that I'm just vibrating so differently than him that we're just not going to be good friends anymore, or I have put him in such a box and made this decision that if he's not vibrating with what I'm vibrating with, if he's not talking about what I'm interested in, then we have no grounds for a friendship. And anyway,
and either way, you're right.
Either way, I'm right. But looking into this topic of how do you have kindred spirit friends in my life makes me realize that this is hugely about my relationship to myself, and there may be a lot more room for that friendship to continue than I'm thinking, and than he's thinking, because maybe we're just not meeting in that place of where we're really aligned with our inner being in a way that's possible. Because I know that it's just too easy to give up on a friendship. That's what Abraham talks about so much in terms of primary relationships, that if you attracted that person into your life, or the people into your life, your family, your larger group of friends, your partner, that you did that from a very conscious place, and it was no accident. They sometimes, I heard them say the other day that there was an engraved invitation sent by the universe to the people in your life, to each of the people in your life, that you're a powerful attractor, and you attracted those people for many good reasons. And to give them up is something you should maybe do with a bit of reluctance, and really look at, do you really want to let go of these people or that particular partner that you're with? Or is there possibly this thing going on where you've made yourself into an elitist position of some sort, and you're therefore pushing them away and imagining there's somebody better for you, when that might not really be entirely the case? So anyway, that's a lot of words, but
Well,
do you know what I'm saying?
I think I know what you're saying, and I think you're right. You're always right. Everybody's always right. So clearly what you're saying is right. Of course, what makes it true is that you believe it. You believe that you're drawing apart. You believe that the two of you don't have anything more in common anymore. You believe, so you're right. You make it, that's the whole point of this "you are right" thing. It isn't that you are right in that you guessed it right or that you picked the right thing. It's that you thought it and therefore it became true, and that's what made you right about it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so when I look at it that way, then I say to myself, well, it isn't so much, well, should I keep him as a friend because he's been good for me, or should I stay away from him because of some other reason? It's, what do I think? What I think is what becomes true. What you thought is what became true. So really, it isn't so much whether, I mean, yes, we're always right, so we really don't have to worry about whether we're right. The real question is, what do we prefer? What do you prefer? Do you prefer to keep him in your life? If you do, then you'll think thoughts to keep him in your life. If you prefer not to keep him in your life, you'll think thoughts to not keep him in your life. It's what you prefer, really, that matters, I think.
And it's also, to me, the question that comes up around this whole kindred spirit friendship thing is, or even having a primary partner, is more around, is there a growth expansion thing for me here that I am denying myself because I'm putting things in too narrow of a spectrum of possibility?
Sure, that can
You know what
happen.
I'm saying?
Yeah, oh yeah. That's
Yeah.
that's part of making decisions and deciding what I want and what I don't want.
And does the universe, like when you say that the universe knows, your inner being knows, source knows how to line up for you the right people, you might say, okay, let's just talk about people, the right people, and that you have chosen those people on some very clear levels as a powerful attractor that you are. You brought them into your life for a whole lot of the right reasons. Then is that relationship really ready? Is it time to truly let go of it? Or have you really milked it for what's really there? Have you allowed yourself to perhaps surrender to the fact that there may be a lot more than you thought that's in that relationship? That's what I'm wondering about. For example, this longtime friend, is this just a bump in the road that I need to just negotiate around in my own consciousness so that I can see that there's a greater value in that friendship than I've been attributing to it? But it takes some surrender of my putting him in a box, you know.
I think a big part of this is the word should.
Yeah.
And the word should, I mean, there's a lot of ways we could kind of approach that concept, but the word should, in my view, certainly includes the idea that should, in some ways, can take you out of your own zone.
Yeah.
Because you're reacting to or relating to or making decisions based upon what you should do rather than what you feel.
Mm-hmm.
And whether the should comes from somebody else or from yourself, it's still the should. It's following the should rather than following what you feel. So, I mean, does that mean that you should never follow what you should? Not necessarily. It depends on how you feel about that. You know, do you feel like that there are times when it's worthwhile for you to follow the should? Then yeah, follow the should. But don't follow the should because it's the should. Follow it because of how you feel about it would be my answer to that.
I agree. So, I mean, I think, like, for example, with my friend, it's whether or not I feel that I really want to still be in a friendship with him, or that I would really like to at least, say, open a discussion with him that allows there to be a better resolution than what I've arrived at. Because we've had a few discussions about this, he and I, and it seemed like we reach an impasse where I get the feeling that he feels there's really not much room here for the friendship to continue the way it's been. And I realize that I'm kind of been leaving it in his court to decide where really I'm actually making a decision too, and not admitting it, you know, that I'm kind of also not excited about continuing the friendship.
So it sounds like the feeling is pretty straightforward. The feeling is no thank you.
Well, yes and no, because there's been all this other experience that I've had with him over all those years that have said we just enjoy each other's company, and we enjoy each other energetically, you know, and it doesn't matter what the topic is. I mean, I'm not that into football, but I've watched a heck of a lot of football with him, and it's been great. It's been a great experience because I'm with my friend, and we're also eating, and we're also talking about other things, and we're also laughing, and the game can be fun, and there's all kinds of things going on, even though football is not particularly my thing. But it's because I'm with my friend watching it. It can be a lot of fun. And
so which way is it? I mean, because I'm hearing, this is why I brought up the should thing. I'm hearing two different takes on it from you. One take is kind of the should thing because you have this positive past background with him, and the other one is the feeling take on it. And I guess I think there's a flaw in the theory where a theory says that because I've had good experiences with the person in the past, I should continue to stay with them, or at least continue to think about staying with them.
Yeah.
And I think it's a flawed theory. I don't think it's a bad theory. I just think it's flawed because it forgets to take one particular thing into account, and that is relationships move. They change. They're in flux. I mean, there's no such thing as a static relationship. A static relationship is a dead relationship.
Yes.
So if your relationship is static, if it isn't moving anywhere, you've already made the decision. You've already moved on. You're not there anymore. So that's not the issue. The real issue is what's going on with where it's flowing to. Do you like where it's flowing to? Do you not like where it's flowing to? And it sounds to me like you're a little ambivalent about it. On the one hand, on the other hand. So what you're really saying is, what do I want to work out? And that's a good question. That's a good question to ask.
Yeah. Like if it means that the relationship has changed to the degree that it'll never be the same, then I either, accept that and look for, do I want to part with this person on better terms, or do I want to maintain some level of relationship with him still? That's a good question to ask.
Mm-hmm.
And is that based on a should, or is it based on, what's it based on? But it calls me to go deeper into what it is that I actually had with him. And if there's been love there, and it's really a real brotherly love, then and wouldn't I like to just keep that alive to some degree? I mean, maybe I'm thinking about it way too much, but it feels odd to me to create separation with anyone that is based on just a random feeling that, well, I should just go to hang out with people that really turn my crank. People that I really feel fantastic with. That's the people I should really be with. And in a way, that's true. I can, or I would always have said, of course, that's the people I want to be with. But now I'm questioning it because I'm finding so many people in the family and friend groups that I've had that I no longer feel that comfortable with. But realizing that once I'm with them, I just went to a breakfast this last weekend with 5 people that I've known for a really long time, but I never hang out with anymore. And one of them was even one of my really good friends, or actually 3 of them, 3 out of the 5, but I don't hang out with hardly any of them anymore because of the differences in how we see life. But it was a fantastic experience. It was rewarding. It was uplifting. It was fun. We laughed, we played, and I left there feeling great. But would I want to hang out with them every week? Probably not, So there's that.
I mean, you're presenting it like there's a conflict, and I don't really see what the conflict is, to be perfectly honest.
Oh, yeah. Well, it doesn't have to be, I guess.
Yeah. Because what you're describing is, I think, an experience that a lot of people have. I mean, there are a number of people in my life who I've had, good times with. Does that mean I want to hang out with them all the time? No. Mm-hmm. Does it mean that there are none of them I want to hang out with? No. I mean, they're just going to be a lot of people in the life, and when there are a lot of people in your life, when there are a lot of people in my life, when those people are there, sometimes I hang out with them and have a good time, and a lot of the time I don't, and there's not a problem there. The only time there's a problem is if I decide there is one.
Right. I think the thing is that, it probably is something that maybe has been an issue to me because of some level of insecurity in me around friendship, around being loved, loving myself and whether or not people really, really do love me. I know that I had that as a kid. I know that I felt that a lot, and so it's probably still that thing, being active here. And there was something I learned as a kid. Maybe you remember hearing this, which is there was a song actually about make new friends, but keep the old. Some are silver and some are gold.
I
And
don't recognize that one. That's interesting.
yeah, and the thing that I always have heard, and many of my friends have say this to me, even that you'll never have what you have with the long-term friends, because there's not going to be any more long-term development, in the sense of, like, if you've known somebody for 40 years, or say my family members, I'll never really have quite that level of experience, in terms of history, but also an energetic experience that comes from just having known that person so long, like my brother or my sister. Um, and it's true of some of the friends I've known for 30 or 40 years, that, we've been through a lot together, and we've really seen a lot. And during that time, we've had so many interactions that there's been a lot of magic, there's been a lot of beauty there.
Mm.
And so when I see those people again, it's a big part of why, like when I went to that party with a whole bunch of those people that I'd known 30 and 40 years, why it had a lot of value to me, because in a certain way, it was easy to continue those relationships on a high note, as long as I was vibrating on a high note.
Yeah.
And so there's the beauty of those long-term relationships that I guess I was sort of, in certain ways, giving them up. And I've been considering moving overseas. And if I move overseas, I know that I won't see those people very much at all anymore for the rest of my life, because I'm
Right.
turning 70. I'm
Mm.
turning 70 this year, and there'll just be, so anyway, it's an issue for me, I guess, just of wanting to understand friendships, and also reaching out to new friendships and cultivating them is a funny thing to be doing late in life, because you won't be with those people that much of your life. But it always comes down to one thing, which is, what's the quality of each interaction, right? And that all that really ultimately matters is the quality of each interaction. Really wonderful. Is it
Hmm.
fun? Is it interesting? Is it beautiful? Is it magical? You know, and I guess that's really what matters the most.
I think you're right. And you talked about how that we have a tendency sometimes to trip over ourselves a little bit. I think you described it like maybe it's just me, maybe I don't remember exactly what you said, but the gist of it was you kind of got in your own way, and we all do that. I think that's one of the really great things about appreciation. I mean, there are a lot of different ways to love yourself, right? I do mirror exercises every day, so that's one of my ways to do it. So lots and lots of ways to do it, but appreciation is a really good one because, and some people say gratitude. I prefer appreciation, but gratitude works fine if that works for you. But appreciating other people, that's one really good way to appreciate. When I spend a lot of time appreciating the people in my life, I find that I don't end up having those kinds of conflicts anymore. I don't end up having those kinds of decisions like, oh, geez, do I continue this one? Do I not continue that one? Because when I stay in that appreciative mode, it just kind of sorts itself out. I don't really have to do anything.
Yes,
You know?
right on. Right on.
It's like the ultimate ease, right? We talk about the ease way, the easy way, the way that feels ease. Well, the ultimate ease is when you're in constant appreciation mode, or as constant as you can make it. Everything just sorts itself out. You don't
It's
do
really
anything.
true.
You don't even have to wave a magic wand. It's just like, oh, yep, there it is. It sorted itself.
Yes, yes. And I know I've told that to clients a number of times, and I do believe it myself, that, like, it's funny because I was going through this relationship with this woman in my life, and I was struggling with it. So I decided to listen to hours and hours of Abraham about relationships, just to see what they really said. And when you really listen in depth, and I remember coming out of that period realizing that the main thing that they're saying over and over in segment after segment about relationships and friendships is that the main thing you need to do is to write down what you appreciate about your friends and family and others. If you're in a primary relationship, it's what you appreciate about each other that will literally, like you say, they'll grease the rails for
Right.
the whole ongoing relationship with any of those people and anyone in your life, any brand new person you meet. If you've tuned your vibration to appreciation, and that's true, of course, of anything in our lives, right? But
Mm-hmm.
especially with relationships, if we actually up our vibration into appreciation by writing down in your appreciation journal, your book of positive aspects, continually write down things you appreciate about yourself and about others, that's literally the main thing to do to allow yourself to have the friendships and relationships that you want to have.
Mm-hmm.
So you just verified it by what you were saying.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad I could help.
Well, yeah, I'm glad you could help there, Walt. So that's what you do, huh? That's what you do in all your relationships, is you just focus on what you appreciate a whole lot, right?
I'm focusing on more and more. I can't say I'm 100% yet, but certainly one of my goals is to do that regularly. In fact, I've been talking the last few days on the podcast about how I wanted to really, really apply myself for like a 30-day period to avoiding negative talk and negative stuff coming out of my mouth, even just focusing on anything that was negative, and really very deliberately keep myself aware of whenever I'm starting to feel something negative, because the feeling is the indicator, right? That's my first clue. I actually don't notice that I'm saying something negative until after it comes out of my mouth. But if I feel it first, then I can actually catch it. I catch it before it comes out by feeling it. So focus on the feelings, and anytime that I'm onto something that doesn't feel so good, instantly notice it and turn it around and, okay, well, what does feel good? Not necessarily say the opposite and not believe it. That doesn't work. But focus on what is it that I would like to feel instead. In fact, I've even, I have started the 30-day. Today, by the way, is my first official day of my 30-day process. So for the next 30 days throughout the month of June, my intention is anytime that any not so good feeling thing comes to me, stop, notice it, and ask myself, often out loud, and this is the technique I was about to talk about. I'm going to say out loud, I don't like that thought. I want a better thought. What's my better thought?
Yeah.
Basically just derail whatever that process was that I didn't like, and immediately demand to myself, what's my better feeling place? What's the thing that feels better than that?
Yeah.
And find it and think it and then move on. Because I think if I can do that, I mean, you talked about how, do I always appreciate? No, I don't always appreciate. I am practicing appreciation, but now this month I'm going to make it a thing to appreciate every time. If I can, to the best degree I can, I'm going to see if I can get through the entire month without slipping into about any person, anything, any experience. Just stop. Stop right there. Turn around. 30 days of that. Think I can do it?
Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah, you can make it a lifetime habit. I mean, that's one of the main things when I'm working with clients. That's one of the main long-term things that we're working on constantly, and that I'm always working on with myself, is to develop that skill. Because once I discovered it, once I found myself, I'd be like, maybe I walked in the bathroom and I'm, spending 5 minutes in there, and some thought just comes into my head about something I'm worried about. And when I remember I guess I first started to notice this in the bathroom. And so I always think of that place now, but I remembered thinking, wait a minute, I don't like that thought. What's a better feeling thought? And so I literally, I think I might have even done it out loud. Like you say, I started saying, well, what I want to be feeling, what I want to experience is this, and so that's where I'm going to head. And so it made me realize that I can do this all the time. And I do it now a whole lot. I don't know how constantly I do it, but I would say maybe it's like 80% of the time when a thought comes of something that feels bad, I turn it into, what would I rather feel instead of this? And I love that. Yeah. I think it's a fantastic thing to cultivate. And I've noticed so many times when clients finally get to the point in our work together where they start doing that, man, their lives, they start to take off. They start realizing that they have so much more control over their happiness than they ever thought. And over the way things work out, because they can tell themselves any story they want to tell themselves. And it's got to become a new habit.
And the only way to get that new habit, in fact, the only way to get the belief of it going, is to repeat it. A belief is a thought we think over and over again. So that's actually a very useful principle, because that's a principle we can turn into a rule whenever we want to change our own thought process. All we have to do is just keep focusing on the new belief. And it isn't a belief yet, perhaps. It's still just a thought that we thought of, and maybe it's something we feel a lot of doubt about. But the more we continue to focus on it, the more it becomes a belief. And for anyone who's doubtful of that, there are a lot of examples in the, quote, real world, unquote, to reinforce it. One of the ones that I've noticed a lot lately is propaganda. Propaganda is usually in the political realm, although it doesn't have to be. It can also be in the business realm or even in personal relationship realm. But it's most commonly associated with the political realm. And propaganda in the political realm is where those in authority keep putting out a lie or even a series of lies. And they just keep putting it out over and over and over and over and over again. They say it with conviction. They say it with strength and fervor and so forth. And over time, the population comes to believe it. Why? Right. Because they kept thinking it over and over again.
Yeah.
And this is a well-documented phenomenon. You don't have to believe in the law of attraction. I mean, there are books written about this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So we know it happens. And we know that the more we focus on a thought, the more it becomes a belief. So why not use it intentionally? I mean, we don't have to use it for evil like a politician might, trying to manipulate people into being fearful followers or whatever. We can also use it for ourselves. Like, I want to believe that I am a successful person. Well, I can believe that. The way to believe it is to keep telling myself I am a successful person and to keep telling other people, you know what? I'm a successful person. And just keep saying it until we really do believe it. Because we will eventually. It's just a question of how often we're willing to say it.
Yes, right on. And the same is true with friendships. Like I was telling this client the other day, that even when you walk in a grocery store and look for something about every person, if you can, that your eyes fall on that you can appreciate. Yeah. Like particular, maybe you like the build of that guy, or you like the blouse that woman has on, or you like, maybe you look at a person and you can't hardly see anything that you say you really like, but then find something, or just decide that person's soul is as beautiful as your soul,
Yeah.
And because I developed this thing growing up in Southern California, the whole thing is be cool. And for some reason, just the way I grew up was always with an elite attitude. And maybe because I was a Catholic and the Catholics are the best, they're always, they've got it figured out. And it's just this whole elitism thing, and it's probably been in our culture for centuries and centuries, that your family's the best, your town's the best, your clan's the best, and but to be able to appreciate anybody and everybody for some quality, look for it constantly. That's like a habit that will then open up our realm of friendship. I think it just opens up the doors, to where you can start talking to anybody in a store that you run into, and it can be a wonderful conversation because you're just so open to the fact that every single person is rich with possibility.
When I first started learning about the law of attraction, it started with watching The Secret in November 2007. And from that point on, I was trying to learn, how do you get into that better feeling place, that high vibration place? They talk about that a lot, right? Well, Louise was one of the ones who gave me one of the first clues. And she said, well, you take your walks every day or your bike rides, whichever. When you're doing that, why don't you try appreciating nature? And I said, okay. I gave it a shot, and it was starting to help a little bit. And then I read a book by Sean Aker, which I'm sure you know of, called The Happiness Advantage. And in that book, he recommended a number of different processes, one of which was find at least 3 people during the day to smile to or to greet in some way, in some positive way. I said, well, okay, the walk or the bike ride is a good way to do that. And it was a real strain. I would find myself sometimes not even able to do it at all, or maybe just once or twice. But I pushed myself to do it, and I had a very low belief level that I would do it, but I had just enough that I could at least try sometimes. And it got better and better over time. Yesterday, Tom, I was out on my bike ride, and I didn't even realize it until the ride was almost over. But I had smiled and greeted at every single person I passed.
Wow. That's great.
And I said to myself, wow, boy, does that show how much I've grown since I started that little simple exercise of just trying to find 3 people to smile at. Now, three feels like, that feels like devastating loss because it's only three people compared to where it was, 10 years ago. 10 years ago, three people seemed that was impossible. I couldn't possibly talk to three people. I couldn't possibly smile at three people. Now, three feels like I'm in the desert. Like, only three? Really?
Well, that's really cool. Yeah. Yeah. I'm still developing that ability a lot. And I'm really proud of myself that I've come so far, because I could walk into a store, 7-Eleven or a gas station or anything, and just sort of not really interact with anybody, and that was okay with me. I was sort of just in my world, I suppose I smile at people, but sometimes I would interact and it would be fantastic. I really liked it, but it seemed kind of random. And now I'm really looking at the same thing you're looking at is how much do I really want to just develop that ability to be truly one of those outreach kind of people, those kind of people that, I guess it's what kind of guy you are now, but, who just everywhere they go, they interact with everybody and they bring joy. They bring happiness. They bring love everywhere they go. I'm actually trying to do that more now. I think of the store a lot. Like if I notice a checkout guy is kind of glum, I'll make a point of saying, got a long day today, or what time you getting off today? What are you going to do this evening? And those kind of questions, and it just changes people so amazingly. They just become so grateful sometimes that you took an interest in them. And
it's also a question of how much you take an interest in yourself. That's the biggest lesson that I've learned out of all of this. The more that I love myself, the more I, without even trying, end up loving others. It's often in ways that I don't even notice that I'm doing. I've told this story before, but when I started listening to my music list, my playlist on my phone, I have a particular playlist of what I call my positive music, songs that I really like, that have a nice upbeat feel or have a nice message, and that kind of thing. So I've been playing that as I've been doing my walks or my bike rides. Actually, lately it's been bike rides, and really helps me a lot. I remember the first time I started doing that, combining the two activities together. I would get out there, I'd be doing my walk, and as I'm walking along, people who were passing me were giving me these big smiles.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, what, did they take a pill? I mean, what's going on? And it would happen repeatedly, and I'm thinking, it's got to be me. What's going on? I finally realized, I'm listening to all this happy music, and I'm doing an activity I like. I must have this big honking smile on my face, and that's what they're reacting to. I didn't even know it was there. I didn't know it was there. It just kind of, because I was focusing on so much positivity, it just showed up without my realization, and then I got all this great feedback from people. That was a nice experience, and it does continue to happen. I still get people who just, if I'm doing both things, I'm biking and listening, or walking and listening, and enjoying it enough, the smile ends up on my face. I don't even have to work to put it there anymore, and I get the big reaction. It's like, I guess I have the smile on my face again. It must be I'm getting all these smiles again.
Yeah. That's a good indication of how much you're aligned inside when people just spontaneously burst into smiles when they pass you.
That's right.
That happened to me on my walk yesterday, and it happens to me now just consistently. And a lot of times I look and I think I don't even have a smile on my face, and I realize that my smile's in my heart. I'm feeling just a lot of contentment and a lot of happiness to be out in nature, for example. And I'm just chill. I don't think anything about the other people until I pass them, and then they give me this look and this indication that they really recognize that inner peace that I'm experiencing. And it's such a nice feeling, just like you're saying. It makes me feel, well, I'm doing good. I'm doing fine.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's a good feeling to experience it. And it's a good feeling also to know that I'm having that impact on somebody.
Yes, exactly.
And doing it with complete ease. Because, there are times where I have deliberately tried to go out of my way to pass a smile along or whatever. But now to also be able to do it without being consciously aware that I'm doing it, that's a good place to be. Because if I can keep cultivating that, talk about having friends in your life. Friends show up when you're like that. friends just kind of appear out of nowhere because they want to be like that. They want to be with somebody like that. They want to talk to somebody like that.
Yeah.
Everybody knows what that feels like. You see somebody who, that they have that glow, so to speak, right? They have that. You just look at them, you can tell they've got this happy vibe to them, and it's the kind of person you just want to talk to, because boy, they've got some secret that I need to know, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, isn't it great to be that person? Wouldn't it be great to be that person? To be the person that everybody else is looking at, saying, "Geez, I want to be just like that."
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it can really grow to the extent that we want it to be more and more gregarious, you might say, or more and more extroverted. It's up to us, how much we really want to share with others and be out there. I have friends who, everywhere they go, they just blow my mind because they're so into everybody. They just take an interest in everybody's dog and everybody's kid and everybody's clothes, and it's just out of pure sheer love. They just love people so much. I have a couple friends like that, and my mom was kind of like that. She would always, no matter where we were, she would talk to the waitress at the restaurant or whatever, and they used to be called waitresses, and now they're called servers.
Right.
But I always was. We were embarrassed by her. The kids were always embarrassed because we somehow grew up thinking, for some reason, that you have to always be cool, or you always have to somehow not make a fool of yourself. And she didn't mind making a fool of herself because she didn't see it that way, but we did often. And because she would be kind of just like goofy sometimes in her love and her laughter and her stuff. But really, in the long run, it was a very good thing to emulate. And I'm glad that I learned a lot from her about being extroverted and being able to just open your mouth and talk to just anybody. And it's a great thing.
Yeah, one of my favorite people to have as a role model for that kind of thing is my wife, Louise. Mm-hmm. She's really good at it with little kids. Again, another story I've told before, but we can be in a grocery store or out in a public place, and there's a little kid nearby, like in the checkout line or something, who's crying or having a hard time, and she will just focus on that kid, and within seconds, the kid doesn't have to be even looking in her direction generally. Within seconds, the kid will snap his or her head around and look at this woman who's looking at them. And Louise is smiling at them and maybe muttering something to them in a very kind way to a child and so forth. And just watching the kids light up. I mean, this is a kid who was bawling 3 minutes ago. And all of a sudden, boom, he's in a big smile. He's just laughing and so forth. His mother's looking at him like, what, did you change children on me or something? All because Louise has this amazing ability to get kids to focus on her in a really positive way, no matter how many other people are around. It's a wonderful quality to have.
Wow. That's really cool.
And of course, the way she explains it is, I just look at them as human beings. I don't look at them as little kids. I look at them as a human being who's maybe going through a tough patch for a few moments, and I want to help lighten their tough patch. And when she looks at them that way, they totally resonate with it. So,
wow.
Yeah.
I'm trying to do that in the relationship I'm in now, of just always looking at my partner as, like, what's the positive way of looking at what they just said or what they just did, or what they, in whatever it is, I'm trying to say, do I need to be at all judgmental about this? Can I just be looking for what's the positive thread that is here, or how could I turn this into something that feels good to me? Even if the immediate situation seems like not so good feeling, where's the thread of good feeling that I would really prefer to follow, rather than making her wrong about something or making me right about something.
Yeah, that's a good thing. One other good feeling thing that I want to say before we go, if you're somebody who's listening for the first time, go to the homepage at loatoday.net. You're probably already there. And follow the instructions for subscribing and sharing, because we want you to be a permanent subscriber. People who do subscribe, they listen to 30 to 45 episodes a month. They're loyal listeners, and they are because they're enjoying the show so much. And so we invite you to do the same. Tom, it's been great. I look forward to talking to you on Monday, and have a great weekend.
Yeah, you too, Walt. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, we'll see you next time here on LOA Today. Goodbye, everybody.